You guys ready for some positive news?
Yeah.
You already know this, but Anthony and Adamo does not know this, but there are a lot of professional agents and professional teams at our Goose Island office, which is the mothership, the central hub of App Properties. We are the number one team year to date on sales volume. And just again, congratulations to everybody who's hustling, working hard. It's not easy to win multiple bids, but Ben, you won a multiple bid recently. Clay, you've been doing it. Jeremy, you're hanging in there tough. And Janet, you got, everything, the irons on the fire now. So congratulations, everybody. I do know that Paul Blackburn had to move last week, so he's going to schedule some sort of celebratory dinner or lunch. I have really encouraged him to make a reservation at Gibson's Italia. It's a really nice place with an excellent view. And I would love to make that happen sooner than later. So if it's not, it'll probably have to be next week at this point, because obviously it's Wednesday. So I'll remind Paul again. But again, congratulations to everybody's hard work.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So everybody, again, there's a lot of successful agents in our company, and we are the number one team in the Goose Island office. So congratulations again. So Anthony Adamo, I want to introduce Anthony. Anthony and I, Tony, we've known each other over 10 years. I have seen him in action as a property manager. I've seen him in action at birthday parties, at guest gatherings. I mean, he is constantly on it. Tony, I think, a lot of times with agents, we don't realize, how important your role is to the transaction, especially with condominiums, condominium declarations and bylaws. But first, just a little bit about you. Tell us about your company, because there's a really cool story about how you turn your family business into this uber successful property management company. How did that start?
Sure. So my company's Broad Shoulders Management. We got started. My father was a real estate developer and condominium converter. And whenever he would finish up the project and turn it over to the board to, when they were done with the development, the number one question was, hey, we like the way you guys managed us up until now. Would you consider staying on and just managing us? At that time, condos was kind of a new thing. Not a lot of people knew a whole lot about what was involved in managing it. So, we started a property management division that we would manage the properties that we had converted or developed. And that kind of steamrolled, and all of our clients were previous clients of ours that we had, built the property for. 2007, 2008, with the real estate crash, we got out of the development business and focused solely on the property management business. And that's when we acquired another property management company by the name of ARA Property Management. And that kind of diversified our portfolio as far as, not just the one area that we were developing in, but all over the city. And, from there, it kind of just blossomed. When we focused directly, strictly on the property management, we grew 30% year over year for about 4 years. And until we had to kind of put the brakes on it because we kind of got too big too fast, right? And so we're kind of, with this labor shortage right now, we've been in a one in, one out situation where I have the fortunate problem of being able to be a little bit more picky on the clients that I take on. We probably get 4 or 5 requests for a proposal a week for new properties, and I probably only put out a proposal for one of those. I don't want properties that are distressed anymore. I, make sure I want to meet with the board before we take on the property, because I'm in a position in my life where I don't want more headaches. I want stuff that's going to be easy. I don't want a board that's going to fight with me. We want to work together towards the same goal. So we've been able to, take on a new property where we like the people we're going to be working with, and maybe then we'll let go of one of our underperforming properties, whether it be time or money or just stress that they cause us. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're not really growing. In order to do so, I'd have to hire like 4 more people. But we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, but it's a good problem to have because it's kind of making our life a little bit easier, the life of my staff a little bit easier. So that's where we're at.
Fantastic.
So,
yeah.
Right now we manage just over 100 properties in the Chicagoland area.
Wow.
We've been in business for about 20 years. I've been here for 15, and I've been at the helm for just under 10. All of our properties are condos or townhomes, mostly condos, but we have a couple of townhomes, but everything that we manage is governed by either the Illinois Condo Act or the Common Interest Community Act. We don't have any rental properties or anything like that we manage. I also sit on the board. I have a seat on the Illinois Legislative Action Committee through CAI, What we do there is we raise money to either help fight laws that are passed that would be have a negative effect on the condominium industry, or we raise money to put forth good laws that would be in favor of condominium associations. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Westward Management class action lawsuit that just took place. In the Illinois Condo Act, there's the provision that the management company can charge a reasonable fee for filling out the 22.1 disclosure and all those forms that are required for the sale of any property. Someone got a bunch of people together and they filed a class action lawsuit against Westward, saying that their fees were unreasonable, that they were charging for these documents. Basically, you can't close without them, and the management company is a gatekeeper for that. So they had this class action lawsuit. It's still I think it's in appeal right now, but that spawned some laws to be changed. And come January 2023, the legislature has actually spelled out a dollar amount of what is considered reasonable. So now it's $475 for those condominium questionnaires. That's the most that you can charge, which is funny because they were charging way less than that. And so now every management company is going to take that number and they're going to raise their rate or lower their rate to be $475. That's going to be the standard rate. So, but at least there's legislation now that is going to protect the management companies. And also one of the negative impacts on that, or positive for you guys, would be that right now we have 30 days to complete those forms. And as of January 1st, it's going to go down to 10 days. So they'd be able to charge a little bit more money, but now they have to have the turnover of those documents in 10 days or less, as opposed to 30.
Tony, that's really educational. Let me ask you this: as far as managing 100 clients and 100 buildings, what are you seeing in terms of trends in Chicago in terms of growth, departure, exit? What have you seen? Because it's been such an unusual 2 years, especially during the pandemic. What's the latest trend that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Last year was insane for us. I had a property, even this year, first thing, in February, this spring, which is like earlier and earlier every year, it seems like the spring market starts in January. I had a property manager that was filling out, he had 22 sales in a month, right? And every one of those sale transactions, everyone thinks that that's the most important thing that you have going on in your life, right? Is their sale. So, trying to navigate that and say, like, look, I'm going to get to your stuff as fast as I can. We have 30 days technically. We like to turn everything over in 5, but it's been really difficult, right? Because it's basically 1.5 a day sales transactions on top of your regular management workload that you're trying to navigate. So I actually have a trend we've processed. Steve, am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, hang on one second. Let me go ahead and do that real quick, Tony. Ben's going to be really proud of me that I'm learning how to do this. So multiple participants. I think you're good. Try that.
All right, here we go.
Was they able to get up there?
Yeah, I don't see what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, I put multiple participants can share simultaneously. Although it does say dual monitors recommended. So Ben, I'm on the share screen here. I click that. Am I missing something?
I got it right here.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we've processed about 750 sales since 2019. And because I'm anal about my record keeping, we actually track every one of those sales. One of the ways that we get Yelp reviews after the sale takes place, we will reach out to the seller and say, hey, we're sorry to see you go, but thank you for being a client for all these years. If you wouldn't mind leaving us an honest review. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we track it. But I just charted here kind of what I did was the sales each month that my office processes as a percentage of the total units that we manage in our portfolio. So this kind of normalizes everything for our growth. So it's, as a percent of our portfolio. So as our portfolio grows, obviously the percentage will shrink. So 2022 is the yellow line, and it's, we're on track to kind of keep up with 2021. It's following the same kind of line to date. I don't have May in here yet, but as of right now, we've got about 20 sales. So that'll put us like right around, this mark right here with a 2021 trend. So I thought this was very interesting, just looking at it, because I mean, we had kind of a stagnation in 2020 because of the pandemic. But sharp growth in 2021. It looks like we're following that same line in 2022. What I'm seeing is a lot of people fleeing the city that were condominium owners, and then the people that are buying their units were previously previously rented apartments in the city. So we are seeing that maybe slow down a little bit. And then certainly it's becoming more difficult to turn these transactions over with the advancement of this Form 1076 with Fannie Mae, which is the new condominium questionnaire that was developed after the Surfside condo collapse. And I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. But what we're seeing is this form right here, Form 1076, specifically pages 6 and 7, which are the ones that we are really having a hard time with. So this is going to be last time that the building was inspected by an architect or an engineer or a building inspector, if there was any safety related or structural integrity issues found during that investigation, right? So what makes our job a little bit more difficult is filling out this questionnaire honestly, but also trying to hedge our liability in doing so, right? So what we did is we spoke to our attorney and we got a rider that they filled out for us to answer all these questions or to be a supplement to these questions. And what we did was we slapped this rider on every Fannie Mae Form 1076 questionnaire that we get, that basically says, no matter what we fill out here, we're just a property management company. We are not an engineer. We always recommend that the buyer obtains an inspection, by a licensed inspector. We will fill this out to the best of our ability, but I'm not going to make any statements as far as the structural integrity or the soundness or safety of the association, because we're just not equipped to handle that, right? We're not professionals in that regard. So we developed this to slap on there to kind of try and limit our liability, because my property managers were like, I don't want to fill this out, and then they would send it to their board and say, here, board, this is how I filled it out, sign off on it. And the board knows even less about these things than we do, right? So they're like, I don't feel comfortable signing this either. So a way that we've made this a little bit easier to navigate is trying to get in front of it, right? So all of our properties that we know have a bad inspection or deferred maintenance that we know about, that I don't know if that deferred maintenance is structural in nature or if that's a habitability issue. I'm not the one to make that call. And so even because I know about it, doesn't mean that it's necessarily, something that's going to raise a red flag here, or maybe it does. I don't know. So anything that we had, any properties where we had a yes answer on those pages of that questionnaire, we sent it to the attorney right away and had them fill it out for us. And then we had the board meeting where the board approves the language that the attorney had recommended of what we should disclose, what we shouldn't disclose. So, this is a rider and a template for just regular properties that we fill out, but ones that we know about, we have an individualized one that we slap on there that has been pre-approved by the board and the attorney. What we don't want to do is come to a situation where we have a quick sale going on and then we don't have this already approved, and then trying to get that process approved with the board usually takes some time, right? Especially if the attorney's involved and all that, and then we have a sale that maybe falls through, things like that. So number one thing for my team is to try and get ahead of this and get it approved beforehand, and then updated periodically as work commences, or these things are crossed off our checklist as we complete that deferred maintenance, so that we can stay ahead of it and keep this up to date.
And I think that's a brilliant writer. And I know that I personally went through this experience. And Tony, you were great in sending over that writer, because when I sent it to the association management of a building, I had a condo for sale on the Gold Coast, and they just refused to fill out the questionnaire because of that liability issue with the Surfside incident where the condominium building collapsed in Florida. So The board was not on board with it. They were all attorneys. The management company was just basically listening to the board, so they wouldn't fill it out. And I literally had to show them that, hey, there's a way to do this correctly. And there's a way to do this effectively if you take a look at this writer. And I think, Tony, once again, he's got a servant leader's heart. This guy is always going above and beyond. I've seen it in action where he's always thinking about his clients. And he said, you know what, Steve, let me send this to you. And he helped us out. And because of that, when we shared this with this Gold Coast Condominium Association management company and the board, they finally got it and like, okay, we get it. We have to fill out this questionnaire, but this gives us, an idea how we can limit our liability. Because it's true. If I were a property manager and they're asking me, hey, what's the, integrity of the structural foundation, I wouldn't know. Especially if they've never had an engineer out there in the 10 years that I was a property manager. But that's more common than you think. And that's something, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who really control all of the loans that are conventional, they started that January 1st of this year, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's not going away. And so you guys should really, really be well aware of that if you have a listing in a condominium building, especially a high-rise building. Tony, that's kind of your niche too. Don't you have most of your clients are high-rise condominiums, aren't they?
Mid-rise.
Mid-rise. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've been dealing with everything as far as property management at the helm of this company for 10 years. Any questions for Tony Adamo, just in terms of process or just anything you ever wanted to ask a property manager?
Got one. So Tony, I just had my second deal this week, and it was a condo at 444 West Fullerton. And I just wanted to ask, I learned about like Form 22.1 this time around because my client was very adamant about knowing, like, were there any big assessments coming up in the future and that kind of stuff. And so I was trying to drill the property manager for that information, and it seems as though, like, on the buying side, you really are not like the property manager does not want to communicate with the buying side, really only the seller's attorney. Is that true or false?
So for my firm, we'll talk to anybody, but yeah,
Cool.
in the industry, it is pretty common that they'll only deal with either the seller or the seller's attorney.
Gotcha.
It gets a little bit cumbersome. I mean, we're a smaller company, we only have 100 properties, but someone that might have 500 properties, every sale, if you have the buyer's attorney, the seller's attorney, the lender, like all these people emailing you for the same thing, it can be cumbersome where you're like, you know what, I'm giving it to them. It's their responsibility to distribute it to the people. They're the ones that paid for it, because the seller is the one that pays us for the documents. But we don't have a problem answering questions for the buyer. But
Cool.
That's kind of something that you might not experience with other firms.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I just wanted to see, because I was having quite some time getting a hold of the property management over at that team, but we actually came to find out that they had just hired a new property manager. Someone new was in the position. There was a lot of transition going on, and we also had a 2-week close, so everything was really tight and felt really like taking a long time, but it really wasn't, that kind of thing. So
yeah, and that's another thing that we try to keep our boards to do, is that we try to keep the meeting minutes for the association very bare bones. If there's not a decision made, we don't include it in the minutes, because I have associations that talk about doing a project or talk about a special assessment. They just bring it up and then they don't approve it or anything. And now that might be in the meeting minutes that it was discussed. And now that's going to be a problem. That do we disclose it? Do we not disclose it? What we certainly, I don't want to kill someone's closing, but I don't want to have a new buyer that buys into the association and then feels like they've been bamboozled and lied to or withheld information from regarding potential special assessment. Or even if there isn't one, but it's been talked about. I've had a closing that years ago that fell through because there was this project that was talked about for 7 years. All the time it gets brought up and then they table it, and the buyer said, you know what, this seems like a really indecisive board, and I don't think that I want to be buy into an association like this. So we try to keep it's very important to keep the meeting minutes for the association strictly to decisions and not discussion. Don't include that in the minutes. It doesn't have to be.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
Any other questions for Tony Adamo with Broad Shoulders Management?
Tony, are you in Illinois or Chicagoland, or do you out of state as well?
Yeah, so we're mostly in Chicago. Anything that we touch that's not in Chicago is a suburb of Chicago. So we do like Elmwood Park, Park Ridge, The furthest west we go is Des Plaines, but it's mostly Chicago. I'd say like 95% of our properties are in Chicago.
I have a client that is looking to invest in some other states and asked me if I had any property management referrals. Is that something that you'd be interested in referring out, or like, you know, potential growth for you guys? Or like, I you know, I don't know, I usually have to be on, you know, in the vicinity, right, to be able to manage something.
Yeah, so I work with a couple of different management companies that I'm friendly with, that I'll refer things out if people are looking for a rental property or an investment property, because we don't do that. And then, you know, maybe they only do that, and so they refer their condominium requests to us. But I don't know that I would be familiar with any companies that are outside of Illinois.
Okay. Thanks for
Or
being
at least
this.
not that I would recommend, at least. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Tony, do you ever have a day off?
Well, Saturday and Sunday I'm not in the office, but I am the emergency contact, so I'm always on the phone.
That's right.
Multiple times at social events. Yeah.
By the way, and not that I want Tony's phone to blow up, but you're a great resource. What advice do you have for us, just as far as agents, to make your life easier, to make our life easier for buyers and sellers when they're doing condominium purchases and sales?
Well, I mean, the things that would make our life easier, I don't know that the agent really has any control over. You know, it seems like the attorneys can certainly make our life easier. It's always a rush to get these documents from us. We have a quick closing. We need them to tomorrow. You know, we need them yesterday. We finally get those to them, and then they sit in their inbox for 2 weeks, and they don't look at them until the day of closing. They're at the closing table, and they say, "Oh, this question, the way you answered it here is a red flag. Can we get clarification on it?" Or you actually omitted one of these questions, you skipped over it. And so it seems like it's such a rush to get those documents, but then no one actually looks it over until the day before closing. They just need to have it in hand. So, you know, if the attorneys could review those beforehand, that would be a lot easier. If every sale wasn't a quick close, that would be a lot easier, right?
Sure.
But you know, those are not really things that the agent really has control over. I would say that our involvement with agents is pretty limited. It's usually the seller's agent that beforehand wants to know, hey, are pets allowed, or this and that allowed, when they're putting it up for the listing. And you know, that's easy enough to answer. So I would say that, you know, there's not really a whole lot that you guys could do. It would just be like the attorneys.
Gotcha. Is your advice to us when we're representing the seller of a condominium, is your advice when people are, even before they make an offer, to send them the 22.1 disclosure and all the other documents that are usually part of the condominium transaction? What's your advice? Should we do it? Should we not do it? What are your thoughts?
I would not do it, simply because we charge for those documents, and we don't release it until we get paid, right?
Okay.
And so if that closing doesn't happen, or there is no offer, then you might not be able to use that same questionnaire, or it might change. I think that we're able to use it for 90 days. You know, if it's still good for 90 days, but I've had people that have had a couple of sales fall through, and they still use that same questionnaire and that same 22.1, but after 90 days, we have to fill out a new one, and then we would charge for that again to update that. So I would say, you know, to save the seller the money, you know, I would not recommend ordering that ahead of time.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Anthony Adamo with Broad Shoulders Management? All right, cool. Tony, where can we find you? What's your website?
It's www.broadshouldersmgt.com. We have all of our properties that are actually listed up there. All the contact information for my property managers is up there. It's just a basic website. You know, we host a portal for all of our associations on there as well, where they can access their documents and whatnot.
Excellent, excellent. It's all about organization and systems. And I can tell you firsthand that when I coached flag football with Tony, he knows how to run a high-powered offense. It was awesome. He's all about organizations and having systems. So he's a great guy to get to know. If you ever have any questions, just reach out to Anthony and his team. Obviously, just to reiterate, he only represents condominiums and townhomes. He does not do investment properties for single people, or, you know, partners, if you will. And he doesn't do any apartment buildings for rentals, but strictly for condos. If you're representing a seller and they're having issues with the property management company, by all means, if it's not Broad Shoulders, you know, definitely make that call and see if you can get the board to talk to Tony and be one of those 5 people that will only send out a proposal to 1, but maybe there'll be that 1. You never know.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, listen, Tony, I understand it's your birthday this week. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you, sir.
Birthday.
Yeah. And thanks for being our special guest. We really appreciate
Happy
it.
birthday.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
You got it. Well, guys, that's it. Thanks for your time today. Anybody else have any final thoughts or feedback or any questions? All right. You know where to find me. You know where to find me, guys. I really
Appreciate you,
it.
everybody. Thank you so much, Tony.
All right.
Thank you.
Tony,
We'll see you guys.
Great week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Love you guys.
Safe trip back.
Doodles.
Bye.